sure looks like it to me, too. But it wasn't recorded as one. And that's kind of typical. If there's no clear-cut evidence that a death is a suicide, coroners will often just, put out a statement saying they died from, and then there's a medical, reason why they died. And that was true of my wife as well. She died because her aorta, emptied out into her stomach. She had a blowout, and that was caused by very high blood pressure and very thick blood. So, a doctor told me, she died very quickly, so don't worry about her suffering. It was very brief, but it was also caused by herself. She did things that caused her death. So, anyway.
I know it's hard for you to talk about, and I appreciate you sharing your story. You said you were a survivor. Yeah. I misunderstood it. I think, again, that's
the survivor of. Yeah, I didn't ever make an attempt, no.
That's where...
Not me. It crossed my mind, but, I went and got help before it turned into anything else. And
I think that's happened for most people.
I totally recommend that. When the thought comes, don't dismiss it. Mm-hmm. Just say, you know what? That's a signal. Maybe I need to go get some help. I just think I'd be better off dead. I mean, that's as simple as what I told myself. I'd just be better off dead. I am so miserable that I had lost my wife, and I moved again into another job, and I was working for the Army in the Pacific, and it had been 15 months after Charlene's death. So I was at the bottom, and my job was extremely difficult, and I was doing the best I could in the most beautiful place in the world, and it felt very odd. Mm-hmm. So, I went and I got a therapist, and we talked, and I started writing, but I translated a lot of my own personal losses into energy so I could help other people. I went in to the Army as an Army civilian, a GS-13 slot, to run the program for the U.S. Army Pacific with 65,000 soldiers. And my job was to inform the commanding general, the 4-star guy. His name is General Brooks. You may have even seen him on TV. He went from here in Hawaii, he went to Korea, and he was the commander for all forces on the peninsula. And he talked to 60 Minutes and guys like that. Anyway, General Brooks is a great guy. So one day, when you hear the story, this is another moment of clarity. This is where Wayne departed from the script, too.
Hold on, Wayne. Well, okay, we'll hit your second moment of clarity. I have to take my second break, and I'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Moments of Clarity in just a moment.
We will return to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner after these messages.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Hi, this is Tiffany Warner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment, and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Warner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one. Hi, this is Tiffany Warner, your host of Moments of Clarity. I'd like to give a shout out to musician-songwriter Don Lawson, who wrote, produced, and performed all the vocals and instruments on my Moments of Clarity theme song. Don gained his inspiration as a mental health counselor himself. He's always looking for artists to record his songs, and you can hear more of Don's music at reverbnation.com/Don Lawson. You can also check him out on Twitter at Don Lawson Music. Thank you so much, Don, for your contribution to Moments of Clarity and ending the stigma on mental health. It's awesome.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Now back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner, licensed mental health counselor. To engage in the conversation, call 866-826-1340. Here's Tiffany.
Hi, welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, this is Moments of Clarity. My name's Tiffany Werner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. My guest today is talking about a long journey from military to police, military to therapist to where he is today, but also focusing on suicide prevention and having lived around other people that have committed suicide. And it's never easy, especially as a therapist and losing a patient. And that would be horrible. And I want to welcome to Moments of Clarity, Wayne Honcomer. I really appreciate you telling your story, Wayne. And also, before we went on break, you were going to talk about your second Moments of Clarity. But before we do, I want to welcome callers to call in, 866-826-1340. 866-826-1340 if you have something to share, some feedback or anything before the end of a show. 866-826-1340. So, second moment of clarity.
Well, the other moment of clarity came when I went to talk to General Brooks. I have to talk to him about the condition of the command, right? Mm-hmm. And my boss, a colonel, and my more direct boss, the deputy, G1, that's Army term, went in to see the 4-star. And so I have this colonel and this colonel equivalent that's my boss, and there was General Brooks. And they had a script for me to follow, and they wanted me to tell them that training was on track and everything was pretty good, and we're in tune with the U.S. Army. And he looked at me when I was sitting there, and he said, "Wayne, it's good to meet you." And I looked at a lanyard I had around my neck, and the lanyard had my, identification badge on it, and all these little pins that I got when I was working for FLETC. But one of the pins I got when I was in VA, and it was a little thing that was a commemoration of the Korean War, and at the time it was 50 years. And he goes, "Wayne." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "What's that little pin there?" I said, "Well, that little pin there is about Korea. I wear to honor my uncle. My uncle fought in the Korean War and was captured, disappeared for, 6 weeks, and then turned up in a prisoner of war camp in China." And I said, "Sir, I wear this in honor of him." And he said, "Have you ever been to Korea, Wayne?" And I said, "No, sir, I have not." He said, "You should go. You should go see the bridge where your uncle walked back across when he was repatriated." So I looked over at my colonel, and I said, "I believe that could be arranged, right, ma'am?" And sure enough, about 3 months later, I was in Korea doing a survey. We're taking information from our soldiers to see what their thoughts were about suicide. So I did a lot of trainings up there in the dead of winter in February. It's a great time to go to Korea. I surely don't recommend it, however.
You're being sarcastic.
But that moment of clarity that came with General Brooks was he looked at me and said, "Wayne, what's the condition of my command?" And you see that question didn't mesh well with the prepared script. So I looked over at my boss, and I looked at the general, and I said, "This man wants to know the truth." And I said, "Sir, the condition of the command is grave. We're not doing a damn good job at all. We're not living up to taking care of our people. We have a threat to the force, and we're not addressing it in a proper manner. Too many people are dying in our command, sir." Mm-hmm. He said, "Well, what do you want to do about it?" And I said, "Well, we've got to get out there and look at this as a threat to the force. It's not just suicide, but we're playing defense, boss. And I used to play football. We're never going to win this on defense." He said, "You're right. What do we do?" I said, "Well, sir, we've got to find our point of attack and attack stigma.
Strengthen
we have to
the
uproot
offense.
The language that perpetuates the institution of stigma and all that shameful wording. And thus, we've got to go and reduce stigma by lowering the shaming attitudes or perceptions out there that create this fearful environment where soldiers don't want to go get help.
Right.
They would rather be dead than go accept help.
Couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree more.
I know. It was an amazing moment when I just looked at my boss and said, the right thing to do is to be courageous and tell the boss the condition of his command is red. We're in trouble. We can't win this with the way we're doing it. Mm. We have to expect, what are we going to expect? What's happening out there? Too many senior officers or people or even junior officers and NCOs don't care enough. And if we don't project caring, we don't develop any currency of trust between individuals and those that are out there, leading them. Mm. What's the currency? Distrust. If you don't trust somebody, you won't tell them what's going on. So we have to develop trust, sir. We are failing. And I said, we're going to change that, aren't we? And I said, yes, sir, we are. By the time I left there, the last year, we had 4 deaths. And that was a remarkable change, although, the command isn't big enough to actually extrapolate a true version. But, I'll take it. 11 when I got there and 4 a year when I left. One suicide's too many. But when I think of it this way, here's the other thing. A lot of folks, tend to think that suicide is an isolated thing, and I would do these trainings, and I'd say, I want everyone to close your eyes, and she said, please just play along with me. Now, if you've had a person that even remotely that died from suicide, but it impacted your organization, raise your hand. I said, now, keep it up. Now, if you've had somebody in your family that died by suicide, then raise your hand. And if you've had anybody that you consider a friend or you were close to that died by suicide, raise your hand. And then, people would raise their hands. And I said, now keep your hands up. And I said, now open your eyes and look around. And their hands are all over the place. I said, here's the thing. You're not alone. But you act like you are. And that helped get it across. I said, from there we went on to talking about resiliency training and trying to get ahead of the curve instead of waiting for suicide to come around and then that thought to occur. So we had to get way ahead of it. So I wrote a lot of things on that in 2017. I did a training at the DoD VA conference about integrating the suicide prevention battlefield. And that was my, I guess, my pinnacle of exposure to my ideas was at that training. So those are my moments of clarity.
I love how you keep saying that.
If people had questions about that.
You've worked so much in suicide prevention. What do you think are some tips for people to know if they are feeling down like that or if they know somebody that they're concerned about? What are some things maybe you've learned to share to help us help others?
Well, I'd say one of the first things is to go out and get some training. If you have never been trained in suicide prevention, you want to know what to look for. It's important to go do your own reading and look for articles online and from trusted journals. You don't want woo. You need some real stuff. You need something that's backed by some science. And then perhaps go work for a suicide prevention hotline. There's volunteer positions all over the place. So that's one thing to do. The other thing in the Army, we did resiliency training, and there's a place in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, at the University